Hello, everyone, and we have made it to the create task. So I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving break, um, and I hope you didn't say do work unless you wanted to do work over break. So we were a little bit refreshed, but we are back and we are doing the create task for the AP exam the next 2 weeks. So this video here, I'm going to talk a little bit about the overview of what it is and what you have to turn in and where you can find information. Know that at any point if you get confused, know you can email me, join our live office hours, which are still 2 to 3 p.m. Tuesday through Friday, and I can assist you there. Okay? So here's a little overview that I'm going to make with this video, not that you can't read it or find it yourself. So the create task is going to be due by next Friday by midnight. So you can start thinking about it now, brainstorming, and then I'm going to give you, after we do some examples, practice runs tomorrow and Wednesday, you're going to have all of this week and all of next week, all of the remaining of this week and all of next week to complete it. Okay. Now, what do you have to turn in is just like the examples we've done this year. There's 3 things you have to turn in. You have to turn in your final program code as one PDF file, so a PDF file of your entire code, and a video I made on the earlier projects, I show how to do that. 2, and if you don't remember, feel free to reach out to me and I can show you, okay? 2, you have to make a video of your code. And remember, there can't be any audio, any personal identification, your name can't be anywhere, and it has to follow these formats of under 60 seconds in one of these formats. I recommend you use Screencastify. That's a good one, all right, or Screencast-O-Matic. Those are both good ones. All right, and then the written responses this is the same questions you've been answering with mine, but you have to use the template on the digital portfolio, which is on this link here. So I'm going to go through this link and show you a little bit about it. Now, for your assignment, you have to answer these 12 questions, just making sure that you understand the main parts of this. And you can either use this link I'm going to show you, the directions PDF here, or the rubric. Right? So first, let me show you this link. So this link, when you click it, and I already logged in, good. Yours might look different because you have the student view and I have the teacher view. But this is your digital portfolio, and this is where you're going to turn in the project part for this class. So you have here, and I believe you have an overview, and you might want to read through this. This tells you everything you need to know about it, plagiarism, and so forth. And then progress. Now, yours might look different, but for me as a teacher, I can see who's turned in what. And again, notice how there's 3 things I'm going to be looking for: your program code, your PDF file, that is, a video, and your written responses. And I'm going to be checking too and making sure that it wasn't plagiarized and that you followed all the formats. Okay. And then if you click on create, this is where a lot of your information is. This is the good stuff. Overview. This tells you what you have to do. Good information here if you read it. All right. See if there's anything I need to tell you. Not necessarily. Program code. All right, this tells you what your code needs to include in your PDF file. Now, we've already talked about this whole time, so just make sure you look at the last project we did, project 125. 125 is a good run through of it. All right, so that's everything this needs to include. The video, it goes over what you need to submit for your video and what can and can't be in it. And then written responses. Now, it tells you information about it here. Now, I believe somewhere in yours, there's going to be a link to the template that you can download or open in Google Drive and work on it. That's the template you want to work on. Don't make your own Google Doc for this. Don't write it in a text file or anywhere else. Use the template they provide. It's the easiest for them to grade, and you're more likely to get more points by just using this, as it's easier to find answers than if you create it and upload it in a different format. So please use their template. It should be somewhere on here. All right. So that's all your information here. Very important. And then you should be able to submit it somewhere on this page too. This is a very important link for you. All right. That's the digital portfolio. All right. Oh, do note one thing is your video you have to do by yourself, written response you have to do by yourself. But when you write your code, you can do this collaboratively. You can do this with another peer. You can't do it with me because I'm a teacher. But you can do it with another peer, several peers. It's just important that you give credit to them at the top of your code if you do. But again, that's only on the code, not on the video and not on the written responses. Those are individual. All right. And what else? For the codes we've done in class, You cannot use any of those, as that would be plagiarism. However, you could edit the codes considerably, edit them to make them your own, as oftentimes people edit codes to make them their own. But it has to have several modifications and modifications that you can write about, not just, I changed this variable name. That would still be plagiarism because the majority of the code and the thought process behind it is still theirs. You have to change the code so the way you write about it and the way it works, the algorithm is different. All right. That's if you were to edit one of the codes. And do know that the rubric is binary. So let's get into the rubric now. So that's everything on the create task, and that's where you're going to be turning it in, and all your information can be found here on the student directions. Now let's talk about your rubric. Now this is the official rubric on your create task. All right. It has language that might be very confusing and heavy, but it's everything we've done so far. And I broke it down again if you look at project 129. If you look up project 125, not 129, the rubric that you fill out, the rubric or the template is a broken down, simpler version of what you need to do. All right, so please use that as a reference. But here it is, quick run through of it, and we'll be practicing tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday on this to help you get a better idea of this rubric and make sense for yourself. Basically, row 1 is all on the video. And note that's binary, meaning you either have to do all of this to get 1 point or you get 0 points. And there's only 6 points total. So every row counts. Don't say, I'm going to shoot for 5. No, shoot for 6, get a 6 out of 6. And if you get a 5 out of 5, then get angry. But you want to aim for a 6 out of 6. Okay. So this first row is you create a video. The video has to show input, how the code works, and output. And your written response needs to describe that as well, what your video is doing. Remember that purpose is what your program is doing. Functionality is how your program is working. So that's what those two words mean. And if you forget, down at the bottom of the rubric, they do define all the words here. So they talk about what functionality is versus purpose. Okay. Row 2, you need to include 2 program code segments, meaning you take screenshots of 2 code segments, one that shows how you store data, one that shows how you use data. Or how you're storing data in a list and how you're using that data in the list. And then identify the name of the variable and describe what the list is doing in the program. All right. Row 3, take your screenshot that you did, explain how it manages complexity. That's really what they want to know. Ideally, this should be the same code segment as the one in row 2, because that's your list managing complexity, but it might not be, and that's okay. All right. Row 4, you're going to take 2 screenshots of the first screenshot's going to be of your procedure or function. Remember, that's the DEF, define. And it needs to have at least one parameter, meaning you have to define a function. It has to have at least one input or argument afterwards. All right. And then the second screenshot is where you call that function. Now, what's important is you describe what it does, what's your function do, your procedure do, and this is where a lot of people miss points, how it contributes to the overall function of the program, meaning what does this function do and what's its purpose in the entire code? How is it important for this entire program to run? And that's important that you mention that. All right. It's very key that you understand this rubric word for word and what they're looking for. Anything you miss, you're going to lose the whole point. All right. I would hate for you to do all of this, miss one little thing, and then you get a 0. All right. Row 5. Take a screenshot of a code segment that includes sequencing, which is like order, which in Python is pretty natural if you include the line numbers, selection, if, else if statements, or iteration, which are for and while loops, and explain in detail how these work. So go into the coding, get very, very knowledgeable in this section. Show them that you know how these algorithms and these skills you've learned work. Okay. And then row 6, this one, I want to make sure you understand. Describe 2 calls to procedure, meaning your function you use, that function, say it's, a function, press the A button on keyboard. And then a parameter you have is a color. I don't know, it makes no sense, but a color. Now, when it says 2 calls per selected procedures, meaning you want to describe if you call this procedure twice. So I call this procedure push A, 2 times, push A, push A. But the idea is that the argument, the input, are 2 different things. So I might do color blue and I might do color red. Well, what they want to see is that describe the condition being tested by each call. Or no, pass a different argument that causes a different segment code to execute. Meaning if I pass blue, maybe only this part of the code runs. If I pass red, if red is my input, only this part of the code runs. They want to make sure you can distinguish that. All right, that's very important for getting the point here. All right, and that's why if you look at the examples I created on Wednesday, not all the codes I created for this actually do this. And that's why they don't all get a 6 out of 6. And it's important you understand that so you don't make this mistake yourself. All right, describe what's being tested. That's describing what block is being tested. And then tell me the output of each different caller. Again, call input the argument that you're putting in. And that's the whole rubric. All right. Now, you're going to go into more detail. This is, again, a quick run through. You might need to reread this several times yourself. And in the next few days, just try to understand it. Try to understand what you have to do for every row perfectly so you can get a 6 out of 6. Because again, the better you do on this, the more wiggle room you have on the multiple choice to still get a high score on the AP exam, hopefully a 5. All right, as that will give you your max college points you can get. Okay. So that's everything you need to know in a nutshell. Definitely go through it yourself. This video is only a run through. If you have questions, make sure you ask me or a peer and get that clarified before we start. All right. Good luck.